Good morning, everybody. Hi, wakey, wakey. Thank you very much for joining us here today. Thank you for those who managed to find a train that was working. Or as I saw this morning, even where there was a train that was working, there was nobody on it. So well done for ignoring the threats of not being able to move anywhere and getting here. So thank you very much for joining me. So I'm Simon Stenning. I'm the founder of FutureFoodservice, which, funnily enough, looks at the future of the food service sector, which covers, and it depends where you sit in the market as to what food service relates to. I talk about everything about consumers eating, drinking, playing outside of the home, and that's what I use food service to refer to. So I'm going to talk to you today about the tech revolution, or maybe ask the question about the tech revolution in hospitality and in hotels. Because I think when you look at technology, it's important to get into the helicopter and get a view really of what consumers are looking for, the direction, the long-term direction for some of those developments, rather than the individual technologies that may or may not be a game breaker. Because when we look at the future, we sometimes think about some completely different things that don't necessarily make sense. People can cling on to the idea that everything's going to be delivered by drone. When we think about the future, sometimes we think that actually we won't be eating food at all, we'll be being fed from tubes. Who knows? Perhaps it won't even be food that we recognize. Perhaps it might be something completely different. Whether or not this is the case, I'm not so sure. Having said that, everyone recoils when we talk about eating insects, but actually prawns, crabs, lobsters don't look too different from those. And sometimes there's a little bit of a psychological barrier to thinking about this. Personally, this is a bit of an aside, I don't think we'll be eating insects, but I do think they make fantastic protein for animals, in breeding animals. Bit of an aside. Perhaps all our food will be 3D printed. Developments now in terms of cultured meats coming down the track very rapidly, and the use of 3D printing could soon be appearing at a hotel near you. Perhaps it's all about augmented reality, actually, or maybe even virtual reality, where we'll all be living in the metaverse. But of course, there's one thing that we can't do in the metaverse, and that's we can't eat. So there'll always be a role for real life. And of course, the future is already with us. There is examples of this going on now in multiple places in many ways. We see robot arms taking off left, right, and center. I love this Cafe X example of a robot coffee kiosk. Starts off in San Francisco. You order through an iPad. The robot arm turns round and presses a button on a machine and then delivers you the coffee with its hand. It's amazing, isn't it? Or is it? Isn't that just what a vending machine does? And so we have to think about the role that technology plays to say, well, maybe it's not actually adding anything to us as consumers. It's just a gimmick. But then we've got examples of things like Flippy the burger robot. You're all aware of Flippy. He got introduced into a burger chain restaurant in the States, and he got sacked the following day. He just wasn't fast enough, just wasn't good enough. But I'm pleased to say that Flippy he was reinstated, he was retrained and reinstated, and is now working across the States at the moment, but in burger restaurants. And where there is a large-scale need for manual, repetitive, automated type tasks, then a robot arm is perfectly equipped to do it. So much so that Flippy's got a cousin, Dippy, which of course is chip baskets. Yeah, because if that's all you're doing, then why not use a robot to do it? And those sort of technologies can apply really well into hotels, given large-scale banqueting, large-scale numbers of people to deal with, where automation, replacing human labor, which is hard to find, doing menial tasks, automation can play a part. So the future is already here. The one thing I would certainly say is the future is going to be different. That when you think now about consumers and the way in which we can get whatever we want, whenever we want it, and wherever we are, When you have order and pay apps, delivery apps that tie up with what 3 words, and you can be in a park, a festival, and get something delivered to your own 3-meter squared space, you can just see how things are changing. And with younger generations, the use of technology to get what they want when they want it is critical. But of course, hospitality is all about great people. It's not about technology at all, is it? Well, let's explore. I think first of all, we have to look at the changing consumer and the fact that following the pandemic, we, consumers, are different. Whether we're cash rich and time rich, whether we're cash poor and time poor, whichever we are, operators in the hospitality, food service space, hotels, need to change. They need to develop their offers and take into account the fact that now consumers are looking so much more for experiences. They're looking for operators that have more purpose, about ethical, sustainable, local, more relevance for them and their communities. We're also looking at consumers being multi-generational, multi-occasional, new patterns of work and play, and multifunctional. And of course, the last one is about technology. And consumers now expect all interactions with hospitality to be tech-enabled. But it's got to add value to the experience. And as operators, hotels, all operators need to make sure that they're helping consumers to adopt and to adapt to the use of technology. It doesn't come naturally to everybody. And what we're seeing across the wider industry is a whole raft of changes brought about by the pandemic and about consumer changes. We're seeing the likes of automated kiosks being implemented into some fast food and fast food-to-go sites, where it's much better to move limited human resources into back-of-house operations of producing fresher, more personalized, tailored products, and allowing technology to do the simple job of processing an order and taking payment. That obviously helps to combat the fact that labor is so hard to come by. We're seeing technology being rolled out, one, because we had to, in terms of ordering and paying and removing human interaction, but we're now seeing it through the likes of QR codes becoming completely normal for people to use. But there are caveats. We've also seen some big shifts in life, in the way in which we live our lives, in that we're no longer looking for informal, casual dining experiences. We're looking for greater convenience, and drive-through conveniences and fast food are becoming the most important parts of one end of the spectrum of hospitality. And I'll refer back to the QR code, because it doesn't work all the time. And I think we have to be very careful about just simply directing consumers to a QR code which is very one-dimensional, just taking you into a one-dimensional world, especially when not all consumers have that access. So it's about knowing your consumer and understanding what they're looking to do rather than simply applying technology for technology's sake. Now, when we look at the spectrum of the role of technology within the food service world, I describe this new polarization for restaurants, but actually it applies to pubs, to hotels, to a wide range, to coffee shops, where either we can use technology and automation to make the process simpler, to remove some of the expert service, and therefore deliver products at greater value, or at the other end of the spectrum, we've got expert service, but then we've got to be prepared as consumers to charge more for it, to truly deliver an excellent experience. And actually that now is changing to become more about an experiential scale, where at one end of the scale we've got social refueling, which I'll explain in a sec, and then at the other we've got premiumized experiential dining. And again, I'll give you examples of all of that. Firstly though, social refueling, what do I mean by social refueling? Well, it's the likes of the street food halls, the market halls, one good example being Arcade Food Theatre, which now reopened as Arcade Food Hall, because as a food theatre it didn't really work with a premiumized restaurant experience where actually you had to go up to different counters to get your food. That doesn't work. The new incarnated arcade food hall uses a menu given to everyone on every table with a QR code that takes you to an app that allows, or takes you online to allow you to order and pay, and then they bring you things. That's nice. It does pay to say thank you when they bring you things, because that's just nice, isn't it? But what we're seeing is the use of technology to allow consumers to order more effectively, more efficiently, especially when engaging at one end of the scale. That's the social refueling. But technology doesn't always have to play a part. Use the example of Marugame Udon, which is rapidly rolling out a number of the Japanese restaurants which are all about udon noodles, ramen broths, and tempura fried products. I mean, who doesn't like a bowl of noodles with some tempura fried vegetables or chicken to go with it? And what we're seeing there, the notable part there, is the use of the tray rail. I remember 20 years ago trying to remove tray rails from every single restaurant and service area I could. They're now back because it makes it easier for the consumer. It doesn't involve technology, but it does mean you get good engagement with staff who are producing food for you. That's a brilliant example of social refueling. We're seeing it also in the revival of food courts, where the supermarkets in their partnerships, either with EG Group or Papa and restaurants, rolling out food courts, trying to fight back against fast food and the re-emergence of eating out. And of course, technology forms a large part of that. So we as consumers are now very used to using digital kiosks to order, to pay, to personalize. And in fact, what we're seeing is a huge increase in average transaction spend from the use of being able to stand in front of a kiosk and type in what we want. Because it's very easy to add in that extra little side order, isn't it? Which is much harder when you're stood in front of someone trying to place an order. So technology really is playing a big part. But I said we have to be careful. I'll use the example of a 2 Michelin-starred restaurant. That's not social refueling. That's very expensive, premiumized experiential. But a 2 Michelin-star restaurant using a QR code on a business card for at every table sitting down saying, scan that for your menus, which is great unless your audience doesn't have a smartphone and can't scan a QR code. But it also lacks in any form of hospitality. It removes all engagement. In a recent experience that I'm referring to, the maitre d' told the process for the business card and QR code and then said, and our special today, which we kind of just ignored because we're trying to get our phones out to take a picture of the QR code to get engagement with, to read a menu. But he said the special today is something, pollock, £68, and walked away. Now, I wonder how many people ate and chose that pollock for £68. Told you it was expensive. The use of technology needs to enhance the experience. That is where the QR code could easily take people through to a 3D picture of that dish, which is very easy now to use technology to scan a dish and put it into 3D that brings it alive when you look at it online, which gives the full description and really helps to sell it rather than a couple of words which nobody heard. So I think we have to be really careful with that use of technology, because it can go wrong. But look, I explained the spectrum of polarization, social refueling, and premiumized dining. So what's happening at the premiumized experiential end of the spectrum? Well, this is brilliant, because we're seeing incredible growth in the development of Michelin-starred restaurants. Not the arbiter of everything, but a relatively good guide to what is good quality. And we're seeing that increase dramatically. That's in hotels, that's in restaurants, doubling of 3-star standards. That's going on at one end of the spectrum. We're seeing this with this premiumized experiential, where sometimes it's about a low-cost tasting menu, the likes of Six by Nico. Sometimes it's about changing the chefs frequently and getting something different for each occasion, as Carousel does. Or perhaps it's that fully immersive restaurant experience that we get at the likes of Monarch Theatre, which is part of Park Row, where the whole room changes with each course and puts you into a fully immersive experience. The walls change, the lighting changes, the table changes through the use of technology. So sometimes technology can play a part in that premiumized experiential dining. And then at the other end within fine dining, we're just getting concentration on experience, limiting the number of tables, upping the amount of service that's developed. So that hopefully gives you an idea of the spectrum that I've been talking about and the role that technology can or cannot play. Whilst this talks about restaurants, it applies everywhere. But what happens if you're caught in the middle? Well, especially at this point in time where consumers have got squeezed incomes. If you're stuck in the middle trying to charge a little bit more because of cost pressure, but delivering not that much experience, there's a struggle. But of course, anyone stuck in the middle there is doing something about it. So we've got the example of Ask Italian, which is moving to introduce a community concept to provide more relevance to their community, engaging with local suppliers, with local artists, charities, etc. And that's brilliant. And that's something that hotels are brilliantly able to do and do so well, engaging and providing more relevance with local community. But what about those that want to move up the experiential scale? There's some great examples. I'm going to use one, and this is Gusto, slightly on the premium casual restaurant side. They've just been introducing a chef's table and a pizza experience. And it's a brilliant example of what you can do. This is a pizza restaurant, by the way, but just premiumizing, delivering an experience by encouraging people to come in as a group, make their own pizzas, which it's a good saving on labor as well. But it just shows that it isn't all about technology, but it is about the experience. And the reality about experiential is that we've got younger demographics coming through that aren't necessarily looking for that experience that we would know and love within a hospitality world, because they're just engaging digitally with the brands that they love and they follow online, the likes of the Sidemen. You all know the Sidemen, yeah? Oh, come on, talk to your teenagers, they'll tell you. The Sidemen recently did a football match at Crystal Palace against an invitation team that had a bigger crowd than Crystal Palace achieved. These guys exist on YouTube. They're bloggers, influencers. DJ Khaled, yeah, we're all down with DJ Khaled, yeah? One of my favorites for sure. He can launch a restaurant brand called Another Wing, which is named after his most famous track. What do I call it? Another one. But he can launch that restaurant in 165 locations around the world on the same day, because these are virtual brands. The TikTok Kitchen, not here in the UK yet, but coming. And younger generations engaging with these influencers and getting all of their influences from different sources. And whilst we're thinking about hotels, we have to recognize that the spectrum of consumers coming to us cut across all generations, all demographics. And we need to be aware where some of those generations, as they're coming down the track, are getting their influences from. They're not necessarily looking at Celebrity MasterChef for what they want to eat. They're going to something like comedy and Big Zoo's Big Eats. So we need to be thinking about younger consumers engaging through digital tools, through their smartphones, and getting influences for what they want to see and do from that digital world. And what we're seeing are hotels tapping into the opportunities. These are brilliant developments where hotels are recognizing they can use their kitchen space for virtual brands, for real brands that are in a dark kitchen like Thunderbird Fried Chicken or Mr. Beast Burger. And again, we all know Mr. Beast, don't we? Yeah. Oh yeah, talk to your teenagers. They'll tell you all about Mr. Beast. This isn't so much about technology. This is about space utilization and leveraging digitalization technology to make sure that if you're sat in Jury's Inn at Milton Keynes on a Tuesday night, I do feel sorry for you, apologies, but you can now get Thunderbird Fried Chicken. The only problem is you can't just walk up and order it from a menu. You've got to order it through Deliveroo, and then you can collect it at the bar. There's still some hiccups to get through, but you're getting, hopefully, the gist that hotels, digitalization, can engage so much better and use their space. So let's move on now to talk about the future of tech in hotels. And there's lots of people here concentrating on their own specific area of hotel tech, whether it's guest check-ins, which are all now digitalized, whether it's room access, whether it's robotics, whether cloud, whatever. And you're all experts in those. I'm trying to get into the helicopter and talk to you about it from a consumer perspective of what we are expecting as consumers. Because it's all well and good to introduce a nice little friendly robot at check-in that makes it a bit of a gimmick. And yes, from a survey that Oracle and Skift carried out, 54% of hotel execs interviewed said their highest priority is to improve or eliminate front desk experiences. And technology can do that incredibly well. Going back to what I started with, isn't hospitality all about people? And actually, do we want some elements of human interaction when we're arriving in a hotel? And can technology replace that? Whilst we've got all the information at our fingertips with our phones, surely a friendly face and some local knowledge can talk to us in a better way. And indeed, there are some practical problems that technology hasn't quite found the answer to. And we like a little bit of human interaction. Luggage, for sure. We haven't developed systems like at airports that can take away your luggage and say that's not a problem. Predominantly because when we go to a hotel, we don't pack as if we're going on a plane. And for those working in hotels would recognize the challenge that people turn up with all manner of goods. But we can use technology to become more efficient, to become more effective in how we handle that. And systems now of managing these things, embracing technology, and that's something which is enhancing the experience for consumers. No longer trying to walk into a baggage room with the porter going, I'm sure it's in here somewhere, mine's the black one. I mean, you know, this is where technology really can play a part. And of course, when we're looking at the way in which we get access into rooms, by using our smart devices, then yes, we can get access to our rooms. But it's only one step beyond a key card. And how many times have key cards gone wrong when you've arrived at your room with all your baggage with you to realize you've then got to go back to reception? And a phone is not necessarily any better at doing that. So if we're introducing technology that purports to make the guest experience better, you need to make sure it's 150% effective all the time. And I think sometimes we get carried away with some technologies that's incredibly clever, but using a key lock and a phone when you're checking into a hotel room, it's not often I find myself with two hands free and an ability just to dump stuff on the floor to check into a hotel. It might work well with Airbnbs and apartments and so on, but not so much within the hotel. It's a bit like when you go and pick up your tickets from a train station machine and you have to get a card from your wallet, put that in, take that out, then you've got to get your phone to type in a code. Come on. We are in the 21st century. We need to use technology to make the experience so much better. And yes, there's some wonderful developments of technology that really can enhance the experience. These Poodoo robotic robots, they're everywhere now, and they're being used, some for a practical purpose, some for a gimmick. Room service, that works quite nicely. Yeah, you can get something like this delivered to your room. It's brilliant, isn't it? Can't quite see a dish with a cloche keeping warm and a bottle of wine in there. It's limited. More importantly, woe betide anyone that when they get the call to say your robot's outside your room, step outside, open up, take your... oh no, the door's shut. You don't want to be caught with that. So there are some limitations to where technology, and sometimes just grabbing hold of the latest, newest thing is not necessarily the answer. Keep thinking about what consumers want, and this survey, again, by Oracle and Skift, is an interesting one about what technology do consumers want to see in hotels. Now, the first one, the top one, is on-demand entertainment access. That's bleeding obvious. Why, when we go and stay in a hotel, is the experience worse than what we have at home? Give us that ease of access. The second one's interesting as well, voice controls. Because we're so used to talking to Alexa or to the one beginning with S. I won't say it just in case all your phones start going, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. But of course, we're getting used to these voice controls, so we want to be able to use them wherever we're going. We want to be able to use our own devices, and that is where technology surely needs to develop, whereby our devices are delivering what we want and what we're used to within our space when we check into a hotel. Interestingly, that further down the requirements, facial recognition and biometrics, we're used to it within our own space and with our own products, but perhaps not when we go into a hotel room. What we can use now, and where I think we'll see many more developments, is the use of beacon technology. So that when we arrive into a location, the beacon recognizes us through our smart devices and recognizes us and everything about us so that all the information is there. That is the development that we need to see. A very good app, the OrderPay app, does this in terms of using beacon technology to reskin itself to the venue, to the brand, and so we have that perfect balance of us only having one app, and two, the operator being able to rebrand the app to suit itself with their menu, with their pricing, with their branding. That's the future where beacon technology says, yeah, I know who you are, and this is where you are, and this is what we can deliver to you. That's all about the real world. So what happens when we're in the metaverse? Because, of course, we are going to be leading our lives not in the real world. We will strap on our headsets and get carried away. But, of course, we can't stay in hotels in the metaverse. And therefore, what can we use the virtual reality world for? Well, this survey is really quite interesting in terms of 67% of travelers saying yes, they'd be interested in virtual reality metaverse experience to tour a hotel. And I think that's where we can really leverage technology to play a part in enhancing the experience before guests get to you, in selling the experience. And yeah, we've got very good photo technology and video technology and all of that that's working, but I think the metaverse is the direction for the long term. Citizen M building their own hotel in the metaverse. I mean, it's a great brand building experience, but obviously you can't stay in a hotel. And in fact, when you use virtual technology to take you on a tour of a hotel room, it's brilliant. You can get full engagement, show all of the facilities. Just remember, don't try and lie down on that bed or sit on it to give it a little bounce, because it doesn't actually exist. And we could get carried away with some of the ideas about technology in the hotel room of the future. This is the suggested Sense and Satisfy suite, which includes biosensors throughout the room, including in the bathroom. I'm not going to explain what that means. I'll leave that to your imagination. I'm not sure whether that's what we want when we check into a hotel. Let's see. We certainly want personalized wellness, monitors, sensors. We are being watched, aren't we? We certainly want more comfort, without doubt. And if technology can do that, whether it's a mindfulness chamber or anti-gravity sleep, we certainly want more comfort. We want technology to make it easier for us. I'm not sure whether a holographic pet is exactly what we're looking for when we check into a hotel. So sometimes we do get a little bit carried away. What I would say is that our world in hotels and technology coming together certainly continues to be different. Consumers now will use their wearables to engage with the world around them. We have to recognize this and also leverage that. Wearable technology, wearable jewelry that's technology. We see it with things like biometric sensors, which are ours. And if we can then engage with the space around us through this information, we can see that playing well. I can see consumers with a wearable ring like the Euro checking into a hotel, going for breakfast, and there being a personalized menu available for you because of that engagement and that connectivity. Google Glass disappeared from consumer sale, but is available from an industrial perspective and works incredibly well. And you can see that being applied in hotels to provide virtual tours, to take people, to show people things that you can see. And consumers in the long-term future, will have wearables and personal devices, won't necessarily be a phone, and that's long-term future, but will use these to engage with the world around us. And that's the future for technology in hotels. it is going to be real, despite the advances of virtual experiences. Why would somebody want to dress up like this and put on a virtual? Oh no, because we want to live a fantasy experience, don't we? We want to live in a fantasy world because the reality is pretty awful at the moment. But of course, in a virtual world, we've still got to eat and drink. And whilst that can be brought to us by the use of technology like this maker-shaker cocktail bar, which I could see working really well, 150 cocktails an hour by each of those arms, purportedly. And yes, as every chef with a robot automated facility in a kitchen would say, it still needs someone to tidy up after it. It's not the panacea for everything. But you can see that sort of technology really playing a part in the hotel of the future, not necessarily looking like that. Thank you very much for listening. Appreciate. And I do have time for questions if anyone would like to ask any questions about that or explore anything that I haven't gone into. It's a microphone coming.
Great presentation, Simon. You mentioned there voice was the second most desired technology. What do you think the considerations around privacy are from the consumer? Is that people are just going to reject it, or is it up to the education of the hotel or the education of those tech providers?
Great question. I think we've got so used to Alexa and all the others I mentioned, that yes, it's a concern, and yes, there are some big questions asked about what technology firms are doing with our data. Are they listening all the time, and are they using that? Ultimately, though, we've just got to get on with our lives, and we'll push past that. So, no, I think this is about convenience and about meeting our specific needs and not necessarily worrying too much about what happens with that afterwards. My view. Another question down here at the front. If you just wait for the mic, thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Would you be able to comment on the uptake of technology in hotels? The uptake of technology in hotels. I mean, this is really interesting stuff, but do you see hotels, especially independent hotels, taking up the technology and implementing it in their processes?
Okay, so are independent hotels taking up technology? Yes, in many ways. I think the cloud booking, digital engagement, digital marketing. See, I got that in there for you. So that use of technology, yes. Are they implementing robots? No. Are they looking at ways of engaging with technology for room access? Yes. I think across the spectrum, whether it's large chains or whether it's independents, everyone somewhere is looking at, well, we could improve the experience through this. The problem is with hotel technology is that it touches so many different parts. That's why I was trying to sort of give you an overview and the helicopter view of the future and consumers rather than specific needs for what each hotel might want. Because it varies, whether you're budget, whether you're luxury, whether you're boutique, whether you're large or, the spectrum's wide. And there's so many different technologies that every hotel can engage with. Difficult to say, but I guarantee every single hotel somewhere, everywhere, is looking at some form of technology to enhance their experience, to make it easier, better, more effective, more efficient, more valuable. So yes. Thank you. I'll come back to you.
Hello. Kind of one of the things that we're really focused on, and I'm quite sure everyone else here is too, is obviously rising energy costs. So you've got the balance between what we're looking at is having every room individually controlled for heat and light. So we're not heating rooms that are empty, that we have that almost moment-to-moment control over that. Fortunately, our occupancy is enough, it's not too much of a headache, but it's looking forward to the future, especially in the winter, and it's looking at what devices are going to be power pigs, because it's all kind of well looking at this, but if it's adding to my power drain, I'm, kind of on the fence with that. So it's balancing kind of the new tech with the kind of money/energy And then on the other side of that, for my customers, I've got some who are like you, who are very keen. It's a new toy. I want to try it. I want to learn. And then I've got other people who are like, I don't even want to be on CCTV. I'm rabid about it. And there just doesn't seem to be a massive middle ground there. It seems to be absolutely polarised. And would you say it's worth just saying, I'm sorry, but if you're that anti, you can't stay here because it's...
Ooh. Right, okay, let's get one thing straight. I'm an old dinosaur, okay? I'm not at the cutting edge of technology. I like the human interaction. But you've got to see how things are developing. And what you have to remember is that generationally we move along, and younger generations getting older, taking their experiences with them, and that's inevitable. I don't think you should turn around to anyone saying, no, I don't want to engage with tech, I want to do it, and kick them out. No. You've just got to take everyone with you. I think that my point about consumers and technology at the start was you've got to help them to adapt and to adopt these new technologies. It's got to be a journey that we're all on. So I think hopefully that's in terms of consumer engagement with tech. In terms of energy, the reality is fossil fuel energy has got to be eliminated, full stop. And what we have to move to is regenerative, what's the word I'm looking for? Thank you, renewable. Sometimes it's just gone. So rather than worrying now, and I'm sorry, it's shit at the moment, excuse, but energy costs are going to hurt for a long time. Until we all go down the route of using solar, of ground source, of air source. Hotels have space, that's perfect for ground source. And we've got to move away from using fossil fuels for energy. So I'd rather think about that in the longer term and the future of renewable energy for hotels rather than the short-term problem. Ultimately, yes, technology which can control it in more detail, without a doubt. Thank you. Time for another question? We've got time for another question? Oh, sorry, yes. Go on.
So you mentioned about the cloud booking systems and obviously using VR for doing tours of hotels before booking, but is there any other tech that you're aware of, considering like future tech, that can be used at the booking stage?
This is where I said that there are experts in booking technology that will know far more than me. I think I'd say I'm aware but not an expert to be able to say, oh yes, you've got to really look out for this. The one thing, the message I was trying to give is about consumers and their engagement and about the fact that we are using wearables, we're using digital devices to engage, and that surely has to be the way forward. So any developments of booking, of organising, that can come through those methods, through social media, through just all of our engagements online, don't need to be sat down in complicated worlds. I think that's where we'll see some more developments. But I'm not an expert, so I do apologise. We got one more. If there's any last question. We have one down here at the front. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It's really insightful. Just have one question regarding the digital identity. So, EU recently launched that all the citizens are going to have their digital wallet by 2023 September. What do you think, as for hotel, they should adopt this technology or not?
So digital wallets, digital identity, perhaps using beacon technology to recognize you and to automatically... Look, we're going to get used to, I'll call it frictionless, where we can walk into an Amazon Fresh store, pick up what we want, and just walk straight out, because it's recognized us as a digital identity because we've scanned in. That's reality, that's here. Whilst news might have been that Amazon were going to slow down the rollout, it doesn't mean it's disappearing. We're seeing that being used in multiple locations. There's now a frictionless bar at a football stadium where you scan in with your phone, with your card, your digital wallet, and you just go and pick up what you want and walk out, which is all about speed and efficiency. But that means that we have a digital profile, an avatar of such, that the system recognizes us and attracts or attributes products that you pick up to you and charges you for them. It is fascinating to watch people engaging with this frictionless bar, because it's a fairly open space, but there are some wide-spaced bars. And you see people scanning their phones to go in, their cards to go in, picking up pints and then handing them through the bars to their mates outside going, look, this is free. It's not. As soon as you pick something up, you're charged for it. So no, I think we'll just get more and more used to that frictionless digital personas and digital wallets, and that wherever we go, yeah, that just gets charged to us. Why not? Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate. Well done. Thank you.